So thanks everyone. It's good to be with you. It's nice to see you all. It's nice to be in front of a group that I'm not used to being in front of. It's fun to meet new people. So, and if at any point you can't hear me, if my voice if it starts getting low and you can't hear me, please don't hesitate to just go or whatever helps you. So when Stefan invited me to be here, he asked if I could have a topic for the talk, and I thought finding ease in the present moment would be really helpful. And this was like a couple of months ago, and so not even with everything that's going on in the world today, it seems like an impossible ask to find ease in the moment with A, the world, B, a lot of us have our own experiences in our lives that are challenging. It can just seem like an impossible task, but I don't think it is. And what I want to do is talk about some ideas, some thoughts that might help you find ease regardless of what's going on. See, that's the big thing. Oftentimes we get into this place of, if this would just change, if we all would behave, then I'd be okay. Then I'd have some comfort. And that doesn't happen. I mean, sometimes it does, but it doesn't last, even if it does happen, because everything's impermanent, everything changes. So how can we be at ease in our own bodies? How can we be at ease in this moment, regardless of what's going on? That doesn't mean we don't feel discomfort. It doesn't mean we're not sad. It doesn't mean we don't have emotions, but we don't let them rule us. We don't let them take over and run the show. And so what happens, I think, and what happens is we can tend to, if you're anything like me, you, or especially the way I used to be, I lived in my head all the time. I had stories, I had habits of thinking, I had just these well-worn grooves of should and should not, and if only, and yeah, but, and blah, 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 blah. That just kind of developed naturally as I was going through my life. It's part of my conditioning, messages I received from my family, messages I received from my friends, from school, from society in general, because, you know, we get these messages, this is good, this is bad, that's right, that's wrong. You're not okay, you're only okay if you're not loving the right person, you don't look the right way, you're not from the right place, you don't speak the right language. All those things, all those messages, even if they're peripheral, we kind of incorporate them. And then we have the experiences that we have, perhaps the difficult family situation, whatever it is, and they create we develop coping mechanisms. And we develop these ways of moving through the world to keep ourselves safe, to keep ourselves from getting hurt. And they become rigid ideas of how to move through the world. I grew up in a family where it wasn't really safe to say things that other people might not like. Or I needed to, like, if I did my homework. I remember one time, my brother was home. My brothers are a lot older than I am, and my brother was home from college. He went to West Point, so that might have had a lot to do with the way the way he treated me. Anyway, he had me show him my homework, and even if I erased it and had the right answer, I got into trouble. So there was a lot of fear around being wrong, and so I developed a mechanism that the idea that grew in my head was, don't say anything that anybody won't like. You know, fit in at any cost. I rarely answered questions in class, because even if I knew the answer, what if, because the brain was always creating what if scenarios that were scary. So it really was hard for me to tell you what I really thought. Like when people would say, "Oh, do you like this song?" I'd say, "I don't know, do you?" And they'd say, "Yeah," and I go, "I do too." I have thrown out, years ago I was cleaning out some stuff and I had all these old cassettes and I was looking at them going, I can't believe I told that person I liked this music. And they say, here, or I'd go by it, like, look. And anyway, so we do things we don't want to do because we're stuck in these habits of mind. And when we're not paying attention, they just rule who we are. And there's a wonderful teacher, Larry Ward. He was a student of Thich Nhat Hanh and worked with Thich Nhat Hanh a lot, who was a Vietnamese monk. Many of you probably know who he is. He passed away last year. But Larry wrote a book, America's Racial Karma, but he says, talking about habits, he says, most of us know that changing habits is challenging. How much of what we do is habitual? Studies by neurobiologists and psychologists researching habit formation indicate that 40 to 90% of human behavior, how we think, how we respond with emotions, what we say, and how we act, falls into the habit category. So when it comes to deeply rooted thoughts and behaviors, however good we think our intentions may be, without insight about the need to change, the strong resolve to make it happen, and the corresponding action, a good 50% of the time will default to habit. So it's not your fault how you got where you are, but I like Lama Rod Owens, who says it's not our fault, but it's our responsibility to attend to it now, especially if our habits are destructive in some kind of addiction. Drinking, drugging, gambling, sex, shopping, we can make anything into an addiction. And now our devices, So we can make anything into an addiction. So to have that awareness and have that willingness to shift and to change and to let go is really part of moving towards ease in this moment. So I want to talk about some of the different kinds of habits, because there's so many. It's such a delightful panoply of habits. There's a book called Let Go by Martine Batchelor, which is really, really good. And I used to teach meditation a lot in some rehabs here in LA, and I used to use this book a lot. It was really helpful. I got a lot of stuff out of it, but she talks about some habits of mind, and it's like that constant narrative. Anybody have that constant narrative? No, good. The committee, whatever you want to call it, or that voice, or the one voice on this shoulder, one voice on this shoulder. Do it, don't do it, do it, don't do it. I could never make a decision. I never made decisions because I was so afraid I'd make the wrong decision, so I did nothing. What is it? This is the only line you will ever hear me quote from Rush. Even if you choose not to decide, you still have made a choice. Is a line from one of their songs. So anyway, so that constant narrative that's always going. There's doubt about ourselves, doubt about what we're doing, doubt about everything. And doubt can be so debilitating because it just cuts out any security, any foundation you might have. Questioning, what am I doing? Blah, 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 blah. Is this right? Is this wrong? And then there's one that not all of us have these, some are more or less common to others, or we have our particular favorites. This was one that I did all the time, and I still do sometimes, rehearsing and plotting. I hear some, and for me, the rehearsing and plotting manifested it by having conversations with people who weren't in the room. And I was either changing the past, saying, we had a conversation yesterday that didn't work out well, so I changed the things that I said, so you saw it my way, or whatever. It changed, it became a different experience. Or I'm plotting what I'm gonna tell you next time I see you. I'm having conversations with people I haven't seen in 30 years. Because that stuff is still coming up, and how could they, and whatever, and blah, 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 and then tomorrow. How many of you drive past your off-ramps on the freeway because you're having conversations with people? Yeah. I told you I was teaching in rehab years ago. I was in the bathroom after a shower getting ready, and I was having one of those conversations, and I washed my hair, and so I was getting ready to put some product in it, and I just spread it all over my face. Because we do those things. We do things we don't want to do. And these are silly things, but we end up in places we don't want to be. We're with people we don't want to be with, doing stuff we don't want to do it. Carrie Fisher wrote a book, Postcards from the Edge. And they made it into a movie, but there's one chapter in the book where she talks about, and I can't remember it exactly, but it was so powerful. She went to a party. She was trying to get sober. She had been clean for a while. She went to a party. I think and I might be making this up, but the sense of it was she saw her ex, and he was talking to somebody else, and all the stuff started going in her head. And 3 o'clock in the morning, she was at the Connections house, with a needle in her arm, because she got lost in her head. But it was a really powerful piece of writing. It was like, wow, that's what I do if I'm not paying attention. So that's a habit of mine. We just go in this plotting and rehearsing and planning. Or fortune telling and mind reading, You may say something to me, but I know what you really mean. I know what you really mean. So there's that. Basically, I wrote here, it's just making shit up, is what it is. It's just fabrications. I had a job interview once, and it went really well, and they said we were going to talk to some other people. If you don't hear from us by the end of the week, give us a call. So I called them, and they said, well, we're still interviewing internal candidates. We'll probably have some decision next week. And so I hung up the phone, and I told my husband, I said, they've made up their mind. They don't want me, and they just don't want to tell me. And he, bless his little heart, he just went, because I would tell him what was inside my mind a lot, and he would because it's like, please don't share your mind with me. I can't handle it. Because we're just making up these things that seem so real. It seems so real. I remember I would tell somebody something, blah, 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 and they'd go, what? And I'd go, sit down. I will talk you, I will show you, and have you believing that I'm a piece of shit. Or I don't know what's going on, or this is true, or that's true. It's like, because it was so rigid and enmeshed in who we are. Judging. Running commentary about the world. I always get into judging when I'm at an airport. Yeah. Why do you need such a big suitcase? I mean, all those things. And now I go, I remember that I love everybody at the airport. I have to try and shift that, but I'll get into that. Or if you walk into a room, a party, and you immediately start looking around and judging or comparing. There's all those things. The mind is always this or that. Measuring and counting. We create benchmarks for things. I used to count how many birthday cards I got or how many Christmas cards I got. And I would just make up a number. If I got more than 10, then I was okay. If I got less than 10, then people didn't like me. I mean, we live in this fantasy. And so we've created this rigid world where these rules we think will keep us safe. But they don't. They just trap us. And where I used to say I had a pea brain because I couldn't see anything or couldn't believe anything outside this sphere that I had created. And it's like that hamster wheel where you're just going around and around and around over and over and over again. And there's this sense, I know for me, a lot of times this sense of overwhelm. There's just so much. It's just so much. And what all of these things do, all of these habits of mind, they take us out of the present. None of them are going on when we're right here. We're in yesterday, we're in tomorrow, we're in next year, we're in 27 years ago. We're just somewhere else. And the other thing is, they're all about me, and I, and me, and mine. What about me? The judging is about me. Philip Moffat, who's a teacher, he says, he talks about letting go of this stuff, and he says, we have to give up being the star of our own movie. And we're the star of our own movie all the time. Everybody else is just a cardboard cutout reflecting my life back to me. And I have to, and maybe they're not in the right place, and I have to manipulate it so they move a little bit, or they're not doing what they're supposed to do. They, you know, in 12-step, they talk about the script and the actors, and making the people have to know where they're not following the script. Damn it, they're improvising, and I can't have that as the director. Because it's just my world explodes, and then I go and do something that is, there's maybe this great discomfort, because what happens is there's this discomfort when things aren't going, or the judging mind takes over, or the stories take over, and then it's just overwhelming, too much to handle, and it's unpleasant, and it's like, get me the fuck out of here now. And I run to whatever it is that soothes me, whatever my addiction is. Because it changes, And I have seen, specifically, even if you've been clean or not practicing your addiction for a while, it's not necessarily the physical addiction, it's the mental habit of mind that takes you in a particular direction. And so we take the world very personally. And so the way to move away from those habits of mind and to begin to find ease in spite of all those actors who are just saying whatever the hell they want to say or not doing what I want them to do or whatever it is to just recognize that that reactivity is just a habit of mind. It's just a story that seems so real because you've been thinking it for so many years. It's a part of you. But this is where the beauty of meditation comes in, the beauty of mindfulness practice, because you slow down, you sit, perhaps you have your eyes closed, perhaps you don't, it doesn't matter, and then you get lost in thinking, and then you come back and you recognize, you go, that was a thought. You begin to, I was giving a talk the other night about the demons, inviting your demons in for tea. And the demons are these thoughts that are so paralyzing, the emotions that maybe we can't connect with, that we've been pushing away for so many years. And instead we begin to soften to them, begin to be kind to them. Because so often we come to these experiences and these habits with this really judgmental, we're judgmental towards ourselves. We're judgmental towards others, we're worse towards ourselves. With this harshness, with this critical voice, you shouldn't be doing this. It shouldn't be, I'm these many days old, why is this still going on? I know better, blah, 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 blah. And so we come with this animosity instead of going, oh, hi, here you are again. Hi, habit. Hi. And we have to be willing to let go of those very cherished ideas. And cherished not because they're so warm and they're so lovely, but because they're what we know. Because what's going to happen if we let go of that? It can be really scary. Even though it really sucks, it's even scarier to think about letting go of that. And so that's what we want to do. We want to pause. We want to recognize it as a story and respond in a different way. So the practice of meditation is coming back, letting go, and maybe going, oh, there's that story again. There's that, oh, that wanting, and it boils down, I think, to fear. And this is, again, another line from 12-step, fear of not getting what we want or losing what we have. Because what if? And the practice is to let go. The practice is to be willing, because it really is, if you want to find ease in this moment, you have to let go of tomorrow and yesterday. Because that's nowhere near right now. And you don't know what right now is like, because you haven't given it a chance. Can you come back to right here, right now? You know, like Larry said, and that effort, that willingness is really important. It's creating, the beauty is that the brain is really malleable and you can create new neural pathways. And also, those thoughts may always come back, but they no longer stick. I always say, one of my go-tos was, they hate me. It was just oh, he hates me. I'm glad you find that so funny. But they hate me. And finally, my poor husband, bless his heart, I said, oh, so-and-so hates me. He's like, no, you have to say he loves me. And so every time that thought came in, I went, oh, they hate me. And I knew they didn't, but it moved in and it felt like crap. Because I just went down I went down that path. And it's like, oh, they hate me, poor me, self-pity, blah. And then it was like, oh, wait, no, they don't hate me, they love me. Oh, yeah, that's right. Come back. You have to be willing to let go. And Rick Hansen, he's written a great book called Buddha's Brain, talks about this type of thing. And I don't think he talks about it in the book, but he talks about if when you're letting something go, you have to replace it with something else. You can't just let go into a vacuum, because you're going to go right back to what you know, those old habits that are still there. And now maybe those thoughts come up. They hate me. I'm so stupid. Whatever your phrases are. And then you go there for maybe a split second, and then you go, oh, that's not true. Because you've seen it, that's just a habit of mind. It doesn't stick anymore. And I sometimes I poke at it and I go, does it hurt anymore? I was like, no. That thought may always come. I can't, oh well. It's one of my favorite phrases, like, oh well. That thought may come, I'm not dead, so I'm not done. So it might always show up. Let it be there. But it's how you respond to it that changes. So we're going to do a little bit of practice, but I want to say another couple of things before we do. Oftentimes we go down those paths of those habit paths is because something is uncomfortable. And we try and get away from the discomfort any way we can. How do we not feel it? And the invitation is to be with. Mindfulness in the Pali that was the Buddha taught and his teachings were written down in the language Pali. And sati, which is often translated as mindfulness, also means be with. So it's the invitation to be with. Oftentimes, what we think it's going to feel like is a hell of a lot worse than what it actually feels like. When you finally get rid of the story about, oh my God, this is going to be awful, and instead turn towards, what's that feel like? What's that grief feel like? My dad died when I was about 5, when I was 5. And there was no talking about it, there was no anything. And so that any emotions I had as a 5-year-old little girl just got put away. And I think they were trying to gnaw their way out for years. And I was like, la, 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 la. But they were there, and I would get really uncomfortable around certain things, and I had no idea why. And I was like 20 years, I had 20 years of recovery already, and then I got into formal meditation practice. And here it came, that grief. And it was just like, and they were saying, stay with. And I'm like, okay. And I cried. But it was not anything, well, I don't know if I even knew what was there, but my head just, we're really good at just blocking it out. It doesn't exist if I don't acknowledge it, but it comes out in other areas. It comes out in other arenas, really unskillful behavior and unskillful actions and speech and so on. And so to be willing to be with, and give it some space and freedom, perhaps the first time. Maybe it's a demon. Maybe it's not a demon. Maybe it's just an emotion that we all have. The emotions we have are not wrong or bad. Anger's not wrong or bad. Sadness is not wrong or bad. Grief is not wrong or bad. It just is. It's how we hold it that's important. And so meditation practice is about holding those experiences. It's about holding those experiences. So, we give up fighting. I'll give you one example, which you probably have heard. If you are walking through your house and you accidentally hit your elbow on the corner of a dresser, you know how pleasant that is? What's the first thing you do? Swear. Tense up. Go like this. Oh, make it stop, make it stop, make it stop. You get into this adversarial relationship with it. But if you stop and let go of that adversarial relationship and just be with the discomfort of the pain in the elbow, it shifts the whole experience. And you just let it be. Because when you fight it, you exacerbate it, and it intensifies. It's the same thing with your emotions and your feelings. When you're fighting it, it just makes it worse. And then you're like stuck on it. You're grasping onto it. And then the stories go off. And then you're, 20 minutes later, you're still stuck there. Whereas if you can just be and open to it as best you can. Because sometimes these things are really challenging. So you don't just like, I'm going to do this. Sometimes you just have to put your toe in the water and come back. Sometimes you need therapy. Sometimes you need, because it's not, mindfulness is not necessarily a panacea. It doesn't fix everything for everyone. But maybe it brings some things to light that need to be addressed in some other way. But this mindfulness can give you a foundation, a place to go. So we're going to sit for a couple of minutes. And what you want to do is just find an anchor. And I'll walk you through it, but that's what you do in this practice. And we'll sit for a few minutes, and then we'll have a little bit of time to have some conversation. So let yourself settle in, again, with your eyes open or closed. Just relax. And as you relax the body, let any tension or tightness fall away. Relaxing the mind and letting all the stories fall away, letting, again, plans or reflections, just put them to the side. There's nothing you have to do right now. There's nowhere you have to go. There's no problem that needs to be solved. Just allow the mind and the body to relax. Perhaps you have a sense of the breath, the inhale, the exhale, the movement of the chest or the belly. Perhaps you can use the sensations in the body as a way to connect to the present. Perhaps feeling a foot on the floor, maybe a hand on your leg or your lap. Some other anchor to the present. And even though you sit with the intention to stay present, the mind can quickly drift into a story, a thought, a plan, a memory. And whenever you notice you've drifted away, be willing to release the thought and return to the anchor, coming back to the present, coming back to being with what's right here. Perhaps an ache in the leg or an unpleasant sound. Whatever it is, let yourself be in this moment. Where are you right now? Recognizing that you might have drifted to the future or the past, or perhaps a simple daydream. Be willing to release and return, coming back to the experience that's right right here. Bringing a willingness to be intimate with this moment. Where are you right now? The future, the past, lost in some judging or some comparing. Remembering to soften to your experience. You can't make a mistake. You can't do this wrong, so there's no need for judgment or harshness. Let yourself be gentle, be kind. Let yourself be right where you are. There's no future, there's no past, there's only right here. Let yourself rest in ease in this moment. Greeting whatever is here with kindness and compassion. Let yourself be. Thank you, my friends.
Thank you, Mary.